It was very interesting. I mean, I haven't read essays on Gita before we started the study group.
Mm,
And I was kind of thinking that it'll be some kind of a commentary to start with, as are other translations.
mm,
But Sri Aurobindo's work surprised me every time. So The Life Divine was the first ever, and it'll take me a long time to read it. And this was the second. And uh, so chapter 2 and 3, well, each paragraph and each sentence sometimes takes me a while because there are different connections and thoughts and interpretations that come. So I have spent most of my Sunday and part of my Monday on those two chapters. But it was very interesting because at the end of the day, I feel that I have gained some extra bit of insights beyond just the storyline or beyond what I knew. And what I like about it is it connects to the things that we discuss. Also, the pre-Vedic, the Vedic, and the Upanishad times. I was always struggling to find that connection. That why is Vedas different from what is said in the Gita? I mean, the levels are different, but slowly I'm trying to. I mean, I can understand how the messages have moved from symbols to metaphysical to the itihasas, and that's very interesting to me because they're not contradictory anymore, but they are contextual. So I enjoyed reading these two chapters. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this work.
lovely.
I really
Thank you for
appreciate it.
coming forward with this proposition to do it. It's wonderful. Actually, it would be the best if everyone in our group would study together and, read themselves, make presentations, make discussions around the topics, because then it becomes alive and uh,
Right. Which is my biggest challenge because if I read by myself, then I don't have opportunity to discuss and get other ideas. So sometimes it can get very narrow and one feels very constrained.
oh,
So
even it goes in and settles there somewhere in the subconscious. And of course, it will come up whenever necessary, but still, it is not really activated in terms of kind of dwelling on it. By dwelling on these topics, one can arrive at some kind of shift in perception. Yes, correct. Great. I'm very glad that you see the shift of paradigms from one form to another, from one structure of consciousness to another, because the Vedic structure is very different from Upanishadic and later from the Gita. Gita is very different from the Upanishads already. It doesn't speak the same language. It changed language, changed approach, changed structure. It became mental. And today we will take another mental structure, even more rigid in a way, more reasoning, and that is Tantra. And I would like us to go through it from the Vedic, so to say, formation, because Tantra is called the Veda for Kali Yuga. Yeah? So if you take the Veda for Kali Yuga, and then, or in Kali Yuga, the Vedic knowledge, you will get the Tantra. Well, when we say Tantra, we mean many things. Yeah? Many different scriptures and many different directions of knowledge and systems of knowledge. There is Vaishnavic Tantra, which is very different from the South to Bengali versions of Vaishnava Tantra, or we take Shaiva Tantra, also many different forms in Tamil Nadu and Kashmiri and Shaivism, uh, two different formations, or even many more different formations in between. And there are Shaktas, and there are many more other smaller forms of worshipping of different devatas, Ganesha, and so on. But mainly we separate them into Shaiva, Vaishnava, and Shakta Tantras. Yeah? And these are again on the scale of time and space a very uh, great variety of texts. Many of those texts are also partly present in Puranas and Agamas. Rashi is here, Inku is here. Good morning. Um, Good morning, Rashi.
Hello.
Hello. You have this 15 academic minutes, yes, from the university. Within 15 minutes, you have to appear. Otherwise, I'm joking a little bit with you, remembering
No,
us
no, I
being in the
forgot.
university. Mm.
I'm so sorry. I forgot about the class. I was in a session for mediumship, like so I was in some other realm. I never got to know what happened. I just have ran and taken a shower and come for the class because I was channeling some departed soul for some
All right.
children who's not
Mm,
gone.
okay.
So I just I got so shocked to realize it is Monday and preparing, but I'm here. I
All
never
right.
missed anything.
Great. We just started, so there was no. We just discussed about Vedas and Tantras, and speaking about Tantras as the Veda for Kali Yuga. So in here you can see that there would be much more, how to say, rational language we speak already, our mentally structured language, what Gebser calls mental structure of consciousness. We operate within the mental frame by concepts, by ideas. Sri Aurobindo beautifully would say that Veda does not belong to that conceptual vision of things. It does not operate by ideas and concepts, visions of the mind, but it takes mental and soul um, existence as real and operates by them as reality. So from there, we slowly shift to this conceptual thinking where we become thinkers. And of course, behind those concepts, there are certain mm, existential realities, but we become, so to say, more and more phenomenological, if you will. So to say, we operate by phenomena in the mind, implying that there is a reality behind. And you can see this already in Tantra very much. It started with Spota theory, which was taken by, I will be referring mainly to Kashmiri and Shaivism today. So if you look at the Veda, the Vedic statement in this hymn, puzzle hymn by um, Dirghatama Uchatya, and this is one of the most mysterious rishis, born from the gods actually. Auchatya, his mother was Uchati, the word, and he is Dirghatama, whose darkness is infinite or long. He lives in prolonged darkness. Such a name, yes? Prolonged darkness, Dirghatamas. So he has this puzzle hymn which is quoted constantly everywhere. And there is a first mentioning of four levels of speech. Chatvari vak parimita padani. So vak is measured by four different levels. The word has been measured in four quarters. Those quarters are known to the knowers of the word, Brahmana. And Brahmana means literally the one who speaks the word. Brahman is the word, the mantra which is rising from the heart. So from here, Brahmana is the word speaker, as it were, who possesses also the power of the mind, Manishinach. They are also Manishins, according to this verse. Tani viduch brahmana ye manishinach. And that is quite interesting. They know the word and the mind behind it. The word and the mind, two fundamental realities of the Veda, which we will be looking into today. In the hidden places, the three are established. Guhatrini nihita nengayanti. which do not move, na ingayanti, turiyam vacho manushya vadanti. And the fourth one, men speak. So we speak the fourth one, and the three are hidden within. Um, so this is the most probably, at least in the traditional literature, there is a reference to this verse as the beginning of the vision of the Tantra. And we will come to these four levels of speech. In Tantra, Paravak, Pashyanti Vak, Madhyama Vak, and Vaikhari Vak. I'm sure you know about it. You heard about it at least. Never heard about it? Hmm. This is the most famous kind of part which everybody kind of refers to, at least those who study philosophy, Indian philosophy. So paravak, you can read from here. Para means transcendental speech. Pashyanti vak, the seeing speech. Madhyama vak, the middle word. And vaikhari, um, projected or hard, already made physical word. What is interesting that Sri Aurobindo also speaks about four levels of speech in his introduction to the Upanishads. And he says it in this way. Let us suppose a conscious use of the vibrations of sound, which will produce corresponding forms or changes of form. Let us realize then that a vibration, let me move it, of the vital, without which it could not have come into play. Let us realize then that the vibration of sound on the material plane presupposes a corresponding vibration on the vital, without which it could not come into play. So if we just imagine for a second, whatever I say or you say, project, vibrate, express in the word, or by any other means, by the word in gestures, by the word in sounds, music, by the word in colors. So you can take any language and express yourself in a particular form. So to express that particular expression may come only when there is a vital vibration before, which determines this particular need to articulate it in the outer terms. Is it not so? There must be some feeling, some emotion, some driving force which makes this gesture possible. Why should I make this gesture with the hand or say this word? There was something in me already buzzing there, which was kind of finally formed into this formation of expression or the word. That again, that buzz, vital buzz, which was expressed in this gesture, presupposes corresponding originative vibration on the mental plane. There had to be some idea to express it. That idea created a buzz in me, which created that gesture, that form of expression, that word. The mental presupposes a corresponding originative vibration on the supramental, at the very root of things. Why that idea came into actuality in my consciousness? It's a big question. Why should I really express that idea and not any other one? Or that concept? Or because there is an originative, supramental source of this idea to come into manifestation, to come into play, which created the buzz in the vital, which created this expression in the word, in speech. But a mental vibration implies thought and perception, and supramental vibration implies a supreme vision and discernment. All vibrations of sound on that higher plane is then instinct with and expressive of this supreme discernment of a truth in things, and is at the same time creative, instinct, with a supreme power, which casts into forms the truth discerned by, also discerned, and eventually descending from plane to plane, reproduces it in that physical form or object created in matter by etheric sound. Thus we see that the theory of creation by the word, which is the absolute expression of the truth, and the theory of the material creation by sound vibration is in the ether, correspond and are two logical poles of the same idea. They both belong to the same ancient system, ancient Vedic system. So what this is the really fantastic what he says here. It's something which nobody could ever express in one sentence. All vibrations of sound on that higher plane is then instinct with and expressive of the supreme discernment of a truth in things, and is at the same time creative instinct with a supreme power which casts into forms the truth discerned and eventually descending from plane to plane reproduces it in the physical form or object created in matter by etheric sound. Thus we have that, thus we see that theory of creation by the word, which is the absolute expression of the truth, and the theory of the material creation by sound vibration in the ether correspond and are two logical poles of the same idea. So on one side, on one hand, we receive this strange idea or sense of that we must express it in the form, in ourselves. So that idea creates a buzz, energy, vital energy, which selecting certain languages expresses itself here. This is psychological pole. But the same vibration, the same idea, the same power is coming through and forms itself into the object of sense, not only into the sense which is to be expressed, but also into the object of sense. It creates the image of things. It creates the physical form. And that physical form is known by the same, by the very vibration of consciousness which comes into our psychological state, into our consciousness. The same movement of the word manifests the world and perceives it and knows it. As Sri Aurobindo says, the word that knows in Savitri. The word that knows. Yes, Rashi. You can also
Radhika, didn't you
cut
tell us that?
anytime. Yeah.
Didn't you tell us that when earth and heaven separated, so the word, like the God and word separated, and the meaning came in? So the meaning kind of, because then it kind of distorted the power of the word and the God, and so what? I mean, aren't these two different things? Like what we studied then and then this?
Yeah, it is the same thing, by the way.
Oh, it is.
Yes, because the separation of the word and meaning, the God and word, at the beginning was the word, and the word was God, and the word was with God, and the word was God. And then what the word did, it traveled away. It separated from the artha. Shabda and artha got separated. So the separation of the meaning and the word now can be gathered through the experience, or through the vital force, or through the force which connects heaven and earth back. So the moment we are doing nothing, but we are connecting meaning and the expression of the meaning constantly. Why? Because we want to bring that meaningful perception, or that consciousness of the being, back into the being. We are constantly looking for the meaningful existence. everything what we do, we are looking for the meaning. This is nothing but the expression, constant expression of the higher meaning, which is modifying and allowing world to evolve. But these two are originally one and the same, heaven and earth, equal and one. Yeah? So the presumption that the meaning and the form have to be the same is the basis of all creation. Now, they are not the same, and because of that, we have a dynamism of time and space. They're constantly dynamically catching up, as it were. You know, the meaning and the sound are trying to catch up. And by that, the whole development is taking place. This is the fundamentals of the creation and the idea of the creating the world by the word, by logos, in the Greek tradition, in the Vedic tradition, in any other tradition, in the Christian tradition. The beginning was the word. Yeah, that word. So today we will look into this word, how it started from the top, came down, and what did it do. So this is, we are moving straight into the Abhinavagupta. Abhinavagupta is one of the most famous tantrics, yes, of Shaivik Tantrism. Most probably you heard of him. Yeah, Tantra Loka is one of the greatest writings of Abhinavagupta. He wrote many books. So Abhinavagupta describes Paravak. Paravak is a transcendental word, which is beyond the creation. That word which was at the beginning with God and which was God, that word, yeah? Paravak. We're not separate yet from the meaning. Meaning and the expression of the meaning, one and the same. So beyond creation, transcendental. Para means transcendental, over other shore, on the other shore. The very essence of the supreme reality, ever present and pervading all. It is thus identical with pure consciousness, Chit, which is the ultimate reality. It is conceived of as a luminous vibration, Spurata, like it is vibrating within itself, as it were, a pure consciousness itself. If we could look at the consciousness, what it could mean, it is that luminous vibration within itself, which is not really yet doing anything, yet acting upon anything. It is just living within itself, carrying within itself the whole cosmic manifestation, which is shining within it without any differentiation. There is no yet differentiation. Paravak is indeed present everywhere in terms of Pashyanti Madhyama Vaikhari, for without her darkness and unconsciousness would prevail in them. What he wants to say that living consciousness, transcendental, pure, not differentiated yet, is present in every object, in every action of our Pashyantivak, of that intuition, or that intention, what we get aha moment, yeah, and that aha moment is Pashyantivak. It's like a lightning which is descending from above. Suddenly we know what we have to do. Suddenly I understand what I wanted to know, or what I want to communicate. Now I know how to say it. So I was looking for it and it flashed down. Now I can speak about it. Madhyamavak is the language, the word which is dressing itself into the language, which takes the element of language, whatever the means it has, whatever the tools, It puts it together. For example, grammatical tools. It takes English language and puts grammatical structure into the text. That thing, that lightning, can be expressed finally through language, through grammar, and given to us. And then finally, Vaikhari. I use my vocal cords, my hands, gestures, eyes, a brain, and so on and so forth. Physical means. So in all of them, Paravak is present. It is present on every level, in the aha moment, in the language moment, in the expression moment. It is there, pervading, present. Without it, everything would fall into oblivion. Everything, stones, trees, birds, human beings, gods, demons, and so on, is but the venerable supreme word present in and consisting of everything. In the form of that is identical with the Supreme Lord. It is how the Supreme Lord is present in everything, through the word. Paravak consists of prakasha and vimarsha. This is the highest level. Or pratyavamarsha. Vimarsha or pratyavamarsha. There is a slight difference between the two, but we are not going into it. Prakasha is pure light of consciousness, and Vimarsha is pure power of consciousness. The word carrying within itself the whole world in its potential state. It is known to us as Chittapas in Vedantic literature, or Chit Shakti. So, consciousness and power. The pure light of knowledge, prakasha, and vimarsha, the pure expression of that, or perception and expression of that knowledge. I here mentioned semiotics, and because it's quite interesting that in in the studies of meaning, there are three major branches, and that is semantics, syntactics, and pragmatics. Some of you may have studied these. I studied them in the linguistic course. And what is striking me here is that these three exactly correspond to these Pashyanti, Madhyama, and Vaikhari Vak, in the semantic sense. The three levels of semiotics resemble three levels of Vak in Tantra. Pragmatics is dealing with the communication and is basically expressed by Vaikhari, the power of action, Kriya Shakti. In Tantra, it is Kriya Shakti, the power of action, reaching to a wider context. Syntactics is dealing with the text as such and is expressed by Madhyama, as structural relations of linguistic categories, morphology and syntax. Morphology building the word from the root, suffix, ending, prefix, putting together the word, and syntax building up the words together into the sentence. Subject, object, predicate, and so on. Reflecting the cognitive aspect of language in terms of knowledge, jnana shakti. So the knowledge belongs to syntax, to the mental categories related to one another. And then semantics, the very meaning of the intention of speech, is expressed by pashyanti as a power of will or intention, ichha shakti, reflecting the creative aspect of language. What I wanted to say was there in that aha moment. But that aha moment is not enough because I need to put it, to dress it up into some language to be communicated to you, because I cannot communicate to you my aha moment directly yet. Maybe one day I will be able to do it when your consciousness is open enough to that moment, and we don't need the expressive language for that, because there it will be. But since that aha moment is not only to express itself through my psychology, but also to influence this world, to create new objects of sense, that's why it has to be expressed. The expression is not only for me to communicate my state of consciousness, it is also needed to create the world. What is happening now? I'm telling you this, we are dealing only with psychology, with the inner reality. And still, that what is being expressed is creating a new world. Why? Because it is influencing you, your mind, your way of thinking. You are no more the same. You will deal with the reality differently. You will create other forms of reality from now on, because this thought came in and changed your perception. So here we are. It's indirect change of the world, of course, but there is also a direct, which we do not see yet. Yeah, that's what Sri Aurobindo says. The same force already manifested the world. Now we have to understand that manifestation. So, Pashyanti Vak. Shall we go into these nitty-gritties one by one? Yeah, or you have some questions? No? Or some remarks? Some ideas? No? So, Pashyanti, yeah,
Can I-
Rinko.
Yeah. So sorry, I can't keep the video on. My thing is too down
Oh,
today. Like,
no problem.
so
No
I
problem.
wanted to ask, when we speak to each other, when we talk to each other, um, like when I'm expressing, it's the grammar. I try to find word. That's the mental thing that I'm doing.
Yeah, Madhyama.
Uh,
Mhm.
yeah. And when I'm trying to empathize with you, what you are trying to say, that's when I am using my emotional faculty.
Oh, yeah, you can look at this from this perspective also, yes, that you're trying to identify with the emotions of the person, and through that, by possessing it through some jnana, as we spoke, yes, to identify with yourself and understand the being, and through that understand what the being wants to say. Yes, correct.
And then there are these certain times, especially I have experienced this. I can sense the pitch of the tone, way the person expresses,
Hmm.
even though if I'm not able to see the face, but just this attentiveness in listening, the pitch and the way the a person presents a particular word in between the whole statement, it just catches my attention. It
Right.
just so will that be something what the pure listening is?
What are we listening to? Truly speaking, you are not listening to the pitch of the voice. Yeah, you notice that the pitch changes, and it gives you a sense of that you feel it differently than it should be felt, and that difference is kind of alarming and telling you something about what is going on. You have to pay attention. No?
Right.
But you are not listening to the pitch. What are you listening to? What are we listening to, actually? It's a very good point here. It's an excellent question of Pashyantivak. What do we want to hear when somebody
uh,
speaks?
if I can like this has happened to me most of the time. Actually, I try to feel the silence most of the time
Mm.
when someone is talking, like especially even if I have to take an example, when you are giving this lecture, frankly speaking, when you start, I wonder, will I be able to remember all this? And then point comes when you start talking and the mental faculty starts understanding, okay, he's talking this, he's saying this, next step, next step, next step, and by another 5 7 minutes I am lost and I go into this deep silence, but I'm listening but it's deep
Sorry to hear
silence.
that you're lost. I thought we are found, not lost.
Yes, you are found. You are
After 5 minutes, I feel I'm totally found and I'm totally at
found.
home. I
Yes.
thought you would say this, and then I hear after 5 minutes, I'm totally lost. But I'm listening. You go
Yeah.
ahead, talk. Yes.
No, no, Vladimir, even I have the same thing.
Lo-
It's not that we are lost. What happens is the typical mind, the brain kind of like stops functioning, and some other part of us starts to hear and listen and absorb and integrate. I feel that's what happens.
That's not bad if that is the case, because this kind of outer mind, which is operating by, contrast and comparison and so on and so forth, has to kind of relax. It should not be so alert. Yeah, it has to be focused, concentrated, but not really take the whole space. There has to be an inner perception of things or inner truth to be cognized. Yes.
And I feel some part of us is listening so concentratedly that it becomes like tiresome. Like sometimes I feel sleepy, even though I'm not sleepy, I'm alert, but part of me is feeling maybe it's just heavy, or it's, I don't know what it is. I find it so strange that I'm so concentrated, and yet at part of me is like feeling little, I don't know.
Sleepy is a good sign, actually. We become sleepy when our mind is not. So we do not know any mental silence other than sleep. So when the mind
Ah.
becomes silent, so what comes to us first is this sleeping state. You have to fall asleep, even if you are concentrated. How Sri Aurobindo describes the successful meditation. It is when you fall asleep and you don't fall asleep. So the
No,
mind
I'm
is
doing
totally
exactly that,
silent.
Vladimir. Thank you so much. I have been guilty in every class that what is part of me that is sleeping, and even though part of me is listening, and this is terrible. I was such a good student. Why am I feeling sleepy?
He's so boring. you know,
No, it's not boring. It's
I'm
exciting.
joking.
Yeah, but it's good to witness a part of us which is learning this, which was not available when we were doing school and college and other things. Is what
It,
I feel, my personal experience.
absolutely, absolutely. When I reach Sri Aurobindo and I come to the thought, to the deeper thought perception, it is like boom. So what happens? The whole mind falls asleep. You really sometimes, if you are too much identified with your outer being, you have to lie down. You have to fall into the deep state. And Pavitra asks the mother about this. He says, "What is this? I'm falling asleep when I meditate." And she says, "Sleep, sleep. You're better open when you sleep than when you are awake." So no, but in his case, it was her influence. She was working with him, so when he sleeps, she could work better with his consciousness. In our case, is the best way, of course, is to fall asleep in the outer being and be awakened in the inner being. And as far as we can do it, it's all right. Our course is both information and also this kind of state of consciousness. If we could find it, if we could really rely on it, we would understand better what they want to say. Because it's not only about what they say, it is what they want to say. Here we are. What are we listening to? This is my subject because I studied general linguistics. And this is quite interesting to explore with you. What are we listening to when somebody speaks? You said you are in the silent mind. You are bringing silence. And then what are you listening to? What do you want to hear? Rinku, you were saying something.
Uh,
Suppose
uh,
I speak to you. What are you listening? What are you doing there? Can you describe that? It's quite a task, yes. So it's a psychological task. What is happening to you when you are listening to someone speaking to you? Or
Are you
let
not seeing, Vladimir? You
hmm?
start to see. What you're listening is actually you're seeing.
You can start seeing, yes.
And
with me starts resonating what with the words that you are
Hmm.
expressing, whatever you are expressing. So I might perceive what you are saying completely with my inner resonance. Rashi will do it in her way, Ashish will do it in her way, his way. So similarly, we all will do it in our way. So something within me uh, livens up when you speak and when I listen. I
Yeah.
don't know. I am not able to pinpoint.
Okay, very good, very nice description. Something is happening. This is the creative part of the word. Whatever, whoever speaks whatever, there will be some kind of reconsideration, you will be reconsidering or recapturing your constellations in a particular way and seeing something new or fresh or maybe old or remember something and so on. There will be some process going on. Yes, correct. Vibration will influence you. Vibration of thought, vibration of context, and so on. Yes, Ashish.
So for me, it's not usually concurrent. So um, I listen to this session, and I would comprehend varying percentage. I mean, it could vary between extremes. There are some days when the comprehension is very high. There are other days when the comprehension is very low on that session. But then it's like a British joke. Then a couple of weeks later, suddenly you will realize and find a connection. And that is my wow moment. And that's when I really want to go back to what was discussed and then read and read and read more about it till the time I tire myself. So that's how I'm kind of building my understanding. But the impact always is that at the end of the hour, I feel, even after a busy day, I feel mentally I'm calmer after the session. But the comprehension can happen either during the session or a couple of weeks later, even.
Right, right. Comprehension is always catching up, as we learned from our comprehensive activities. First, you apprehend, you see, you cognize the thing, you see the form, you see the structure, the syntax, the relations of the categories, and then you either you start understanding or you postponed your understanding for later time, which is also very fine, by the way. No rush, so it can wait. And it is sometimes much better to keep questions rather than to answer them. So to say not to answer the question satisfactory, or because any answering the question is actually a damaging of the some kind. It's better to leave it open and to get many more answers later during your lifetime and still not to be satisfied with the answer until it is totally realized.
Um, in fact, early on when we started, I'm used to taking notes when I listen, and that's how I started. But then it was getting very difficult because I could not, put it in my own words or even graphics. And then you said no need because I can listen to the recordings, and that really helped because a part of me that was feeling stressed, ensuring that comprehension happens while listening, that part is now relaxed. So, and the other thing I feel is that the mind has to be receptive to the topic that we are discussing.
Mhm.
So it will archive it, but at another time, early morning, when I'm thinking about something, or then suddenly that connection will appear. It does, and those are the actually the moments of delight, so to say. And that's what is interesting. And this is very unusual to me. I have never learned philosophy. I've been more like the logic, the math, and the science. And this kind of learning, it's kind of the first experience for me. So yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's like it's another type of logic. Yeah, so logic has its own, of course, advantage to be very precise and very, scrupulous, moving from one point to another. But here, you get like a jump over several logical links, and it is kind of okay. It gives you a sense of knowledge in spite of you are missing certain links, in the logical sense you are missing links, but in the sense of perception you're not missing links. Mm. Yes, this is one thing what we when some other ideas what we are listening to. Melissa, maybe no, you are a hearing person. It would be interesting to hear what hearing people say, because usually visual people who are visual, there are three types of people, tactile, visual, and audio. Audio people are differently listening than visual people who see.
I'm more of a visual person,
You're
actually.
more visual. Okay, I thought you have such a good sense of tone. I thought you were hearing.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I have a musical ear, but when I learn, for instance, for your classes, for instance, I when I have time, which at the moment I don't, but I re-listen to them and I write down.
Ah,
And it's by writing down that things fall into places.
interesting. So maybe even you are, yes, because you dealt with textiles and so on. There could be that visuals and even touch part is very important.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, could be, could be.
Even for me, Vladimir, because I'm a kinesthetic person, even though I'm very visual, I'm not a great listener. So sometimes I see that I'm swimming away because I'm listening and listening, and so I start to write, because then I start doing an action. My focus comes back, and I hear. So many times I
Yeah.
just draw, doodle, or whatever, just so that I can hear better. It's such a task. People think, "What are you writing in this class?" But actually, I'm just writing something so that I hear better, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, the first times when I did really profound meditation was when I was doing embroidery.
Uh,
So I was doing something, uh, which is creation, but it's the same movement, and it opened gates, or I don't know if
uh-huh,
yeah.
uh-huh. Yeah, amazing. So you can see how different we are already on this ground, not to say any more further what we learned and studied. And I think Ashish is visual more in a way. At least I assume so. I may be wrong because you know better. Nobody can tell you who you are. But from whatever remarks you made. And Rinku, I do not know, Rinku, how do you think who you are? You may be a hearing person.
Oh, very much. Very much, very much.
You're
I
here.
listen.
You
Yeah.
listen more than see. Seeing is kind of coming after listening. Yeah.
Uh, Basically, I have very good knack with textile designing. So yes, I am visual also. I am very good a driver, so I have good sense of space also. But the first thing that happens is listening.
Uh huh.
The first thing happens is listening very consciously. I think I have never been that much of a tech, but yes, it comes very naturally to me. Not just listening to the voice, but I can even many of the time listen to the vibration people release as they move here up and down through me.
That's why you were saying about the pitch of the voice
Yeah.
and the vibration, how because you may speak the very nice things in a very wrong pitch, and then it
What I was saying that you would realize it after 3 days. So as a child, I would always have this issue with sarcasm. People
uh,
would pass a remark, and then after 3 days, I would realize, and those 3 days would be turmoil for me because I have perceived something very hurtful, but the words were very sweet. So I would be going crazy about understanding what is this going on in me.
interesting.
But then I started realizing that sensitivity is there within, so let me tap on it rather than making it a weakness. So I have kind of developed that part. So this is what usually when listening to my class, uh, it's, it's that it just very happens naturally. If I too much focus, I'm lost. If I use the mental faculty, I'm lost. um, I have to connect it even when I revisit your recordings. I have to somewhere connect it with emotions and the psychological aspect of human ideas. That's where I can remember the data. Otherwise, I cannot. So if you can pick up, I have right now might be 20 clients I'm working with. You can pick up anyone and I'll give you top to bottom everything what I've heard.
It's amazing the difference between these three types. Yes, you could see it immediately in people. We have all misunderstandings with my friend here in the US because of this. She's always seeing and I'm always hearing. So, and whatever we discuss, there will be always this kind of clash. Yeah, whatever I say, I will be looking for the meaning and she will be looking for the structure which embodies a particular action. She needs a picture and she's the director of the center. And I am the person who always I have to have the meaning. I must recover the meaning, the comprehension. I have to understand. Without understanding, I do not know why I should do anything. You know, I don't understand doing without understanding. And really, and that makes all the difficulty for me in my life, you know? Because many times they want you to do things without understanding. Just do it, yeah? And you will understand after. But I can't do it. I need to understand before I engage in action. And that looks like I'm kind of, yeah. So anytime if we start distinguishing between the two types, three types, we will see that they behave differently, they perceive differently things, and just in every possible way. Yeah? Whatever happens, there will be different reaction. I will be looking for the meaning. That's why I was asking, what are you listening to, you know, when somebody speaks, or when you are watching something, somebody is expressing something? What are you gathering out of it? What are you looking for in it? What do you want to hear or to know or to realize or whatever? And it's quite an interesting thing, because in my case I notice that I am not listening to the people what they say at all. And that's another blunder in my life. I don't hear what they say, but I am listening to what they want to say. And many times, actually, I don't hear that they want to say something meaningful. And that kind of frustrates them and me and everyone. That's my difficulty in relationship, because I want some meaningful message and I don't get it. A person may be just describing the breakfast in the morning. Yeah? I had such a nice breakfast in the morning, and tells you everything about the breakfast. And then you are waiting for the message. You want to hear the intention. Why do you say all this? Yeah? There must be some meaning in it. And many times there is no meaning other than as it is. Yeah? So, and that is funny part of it.
Would be how does one uh, how does one develop happiness where you can reach to that level of connecting with what they want to say, as you said. It's not about what
Right.
they
And that is Pashyantivak. That's why I stopped here for so long, because I wanted us to see that Pashyantivak is an intention. Something, some meaning wants to come through, some message, some correction of already established equilibrium in manifestation. Manifestation is something which is established and at the same time constantly modified by these penetrations, or these, constant flashing down of the new meanings or new corrections on the way, or some unexpected interventions of ideas, of light, and so on. So this is constantly taking place, and whether we want it or not. Suddenly I get up and, as here beautifully he would describe it, let us go through it. So this meaning is coming to us constantly. It is called upon and it is coming to us. So the seeing word is indeed the active part of paravak, which has two parts. The first is the inner part, the next is the outer manifestation. This should be seen. This is like a proclamation. Thus, Vimarsha, power of paravak, reveals itself from its origin and becomes in the forms of Pashyantivak. That means Vimarsha, the action of the knowledge, this should be seen, it has to be projected, it has to be manifested. And in that sense, that flash, that intention comes to us. So the Vimarsha part of Paravak becomes an active part of Pashyantivak, of the seeing speech, on the next level of manifestation, when we perceive it. It is conceived as the first movement of wanting to know, wanting to express, usually wanting to know. It is non-dualistic in nature, where the division on subject and object is not yet been made. I do not know yet what I want to know, but I already know that I want to know. It's not yet clear in terms of what it is, but it is totally clear in non-dualistic manner that the object and the perception of this object are already here within me. I must manifest them in some language, in some expression. So I will be looking for the language. Nahi prathama, okay, I will not read Sanskrit because it's too long. In this first moment of cognition, there is no separation yet. There is no distinction between signified and signifier. We spoke about vachya and vachaka. Yes, signified is the object of sense, and signifier is the word, the meaning of this object. There is no yet distinction in Pashyantivak. But when we come down, now we are coming down from Pashyanti. So Pashyantivak can be described as transition from the undifferentiated stage to the stage of differentiation, the supreme non-supreme state of the word, para, para and apara, which connects pure subjectivity with objectivity, ahanta with idanta, I-ness with thisness. I-ness with thisness. It's so beautiful, so simple, and so actually rational in a way to say that way. So these two coexist in her with predominance of subjective aspect of I-ness, ahamta, which already on the Madhyama level will change and both will be equalized, as it were. Madhyama, we have to find the object which we want, the language, and the subjective state, they have to correspond. What is a cause for Pashyanti, asks Abhinavagupta. How is it set into motion? Why it is coming here at all? The explanation given by Abhinavagupta is quite interesting. Whatever is thus aspired or wished for is indeed awakened by the necessity of a certain action. And it is by only following that awareness that Pashyanti gets the perception of it and is set into motion. Now, this is something incredible. Nothing here appears without us calling for it. We have a need of certain knowledge. We have a need of certain understanding, certain rearrangement of things. And that need calls to this awareness in us. And that awareness answers. It is a constant answer to our call. As Sri Aurobindo says, there are only two powers which determine the whole thing. It is the call from below and the grace from above that answers. And these two constitute our reality of consciousness. This is the approach of Tantra, quite amazing, through the word. The word is an action of consciousness, which brings the meaning to new meaning and new action into the constellation of things which are calling for this new meaning and action. That fire within for progress, for growth, which is constantly curious in us, wants to know more, wants to discover more. And it is in the action calls to it. It is interesting to mention here how the hierarchy of Pashyanti Vak is being defined. According to Abhinavagupta, there is always a greater will, Mahapashyanti, and smaller ones, Pashyantis. For instance, he says, I go to the village, says Abhinavagupta, and it is my main will, Mahapashyanti. There's a need to go to the village. I am leaving my house, is a smaller Pashyanti. Similarly, one should see the plane of Sadashiva as the great Mahapashyanti, in comparison to which all other wills of individuals being subjects to Maya are smaller Pashyantis. I will explain more in detail because this is essential. So I'm going to the village now. I'm going to the city, to Greenville, to Fountain Inn. So to go to Fountain Inn, I have to switch off here light, close the doors, take my car, fill the petrol. uh, I have to pick up the my money, my credit card, my driving license in case I'm stopped. Now look how many things smaller Pashyantis are present with this one particular Mahapashyanti movement to go to Fountain Inn. So I decided to go there, and I have to do so many more things in order to go there. And going there is not the end of the story. I'm going there for getting some food, to buy some, food for myself. And it is quite amazing. So when I get the food, I get it also for something else to come in the future. And I do not see that future, but I do it now. So that Pashyanti to get food for tomorrow and day after tomorrow is already here, which is determining next set of events tomorrow and after tomorrow. Amazing. Just think about it. And all these Mahapashyantis coming into vast and vaster streams until they reach to the supreme Sadashiva above. From him, all the intentions come down. It is from him that we receive this vaster stream, which are kind of becoming smaller and smaller streams of our activities. And here now, I'm speaking this without being aware where it is leading tomorrow, day after tomorrow, in 1 year. I am not aware of it. But that small stream which comes down now, speaking this, is belonging to the vaster stream, which already knows what is to happen within few years. So this is the description of Abhinavagupta of Pashyanti Vak, intention which is pervading and penetrating, reaching down with small streams to all of us in different ways, though they all belong to one intention to manifest a higher reality here. Yeah. This is the most delightful part. No, Madhyama Vak, of course, I'm over my time already. Maybe Madhyama Vak, we will leave how we dress this intention into the language. This is a linguistic part, which is most interesting. How we choose languages to express that particular power which came to us, that light. That light has to be presented, has to be expressed, has to be manifested in some form. And it has to be communicated to others. Why? Why do we have to communicate anything what comes to us to others? It's a question. It's quite interesting question. Yeah. Why communicate? Is it not just good enough for us to receive it and that's it? Some ideas on communication? Why do we have to speak all the time to others something?
Vladimir, because God created his own bliss, his own self for his own entertainment. So we are all parts of that, and we like to entertain each other through communication and passing of the decoding that we have received, because what I hear and see may be different from the other. So maybe in a collective search for meaning, we are doing it unconsciously. I don't know.
Lovely, lovely. Entertaining each other, loving each other, in other words. It is the power of love, actually, which pushes us out to really project and manifest the inner reality, to express it in such a way that that expression becomes the expression of that love towards the divine in any form, in every form. In form of communicating with others, in form of creating a tapestry, making these beautiful designs, creating beautiful music. It is all a manifestation of the divine. And that is the power of love. Yeah? Love manifests the divine, or the word. In this case, it is the word. But Mother speaks about the power of love. And she says if that power of love would not be here, we would stay statically in our own supreme, so to say, self-awareness, perfectly aligned with the divine, and would never make any mistake, any expression. It pushes us out to communicate, to reach to each other, to discover the divine together within each other. And that is so delightful. It is so entertaining, as you say, that not to do it, it's nearly impossible. Even if we are doing it to ourselves, we are sitting at home and thinking or writing the essay or reading the book, what is happening? We are expressing that inner delight, inner love, inner reality in the form of language, in the form of state of consciousness here. And that state of consciousness is manifestation, actually. Constant, uninterrupted manifestation of the divine. Whether I speak to myself or I speak to you, there is no big difference, actually. Because myself, this superficial surface self, surface mind, has to perceive the inner truth of the being. And I can speak to myself in a way that it surprises me. Yeah? Some words are coming, some expressions are coming, which are bewildering my mental consciousness. I say, where is this coming from? This is what we have to trace. We have to trace that Pashyantivak, that origin, Sadashiva origin, which is constantly reaching out to us, whether we express it to others or to ourselves. It is manifesting in forms of knowledge, in forms of action, structures, forms of being and activities. All right, we can stop here today. This becomes the foundation of all Indian culture. We will come still, we will finish next time this Madhyamavak and the whole structure of languages. Here they are at the end, you could see them together. And we will see how this world came into being from the point of view of the Veda and Tantra. And then we will understand Indian culture better, why it was word-oriented, why Svadhyaya was the major structure of culture, why the word, why mantras, what these mantras are doing really. Yeah, what higher consciousness they are bringing in and manifesting here, a new consciousness within the manifestation. All right. Okay, I will stop here. I'm already over time. So sorry. Every time I am over time. I even made a gap between my classes in case I am late because I know that these topics may take a little longer. But I'm sorry, Ashish, that you have to sit in the night longer. You already have to
Oh,
go.
happy to. It's very interesting.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'm closing with mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet Om Shanti 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 Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha Hari Om. Hari Om.
Thank
Hari
you.
Om. Thank
See
you.
you. Namaste.